Oswaldo, are we good?
Well, let me wait for Oswaldo, I'm sorry.
Yep.
I'm going to call the meeting to order, and please rise for a moment of silent prayer followed by the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I'm going to request the clerk call the roll.
Basson,
Here.
Weigel,
Here.
Leader,
Here.
Benvenuto,
Here.
Stats,
Here.
Adams,
Here.
Mettler,
Here.
Collins,
Here.
Riley,
Here.
Eldridge,
I'm here.
Yuri,
Here.
Kirsten,
Here.
Ligonia,
Here.
Sterling,
Here.
Mia,
Yes.
Chimidas,
Here.
Mussman,
Here.
Scalera,
Here.
Huzzy,
Here.
Hoatling,
Present.
Morel,
Here.
Knott,
Here.
Skoda. Okay, 3460 present, 75 absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you. I need a motion to pay the bills, accept the treasurer's report, and file the minutes within the clerk's office.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I'd ask PJ Keeler and actually Elena DeFeo Keen has joined us to give us an update on the stimulus, at least what they know at this point in time. PJ?
All right, thanks, Chairman. Just a brief update. We did receive the $5.7 million, which is one half of our stimulus money. We received that on the 17th of May, and we have that tucked away in an account at the Greene County Commercial Bank. It has been kind of an eye-opening experience. I thought that I knew that there would be strings attached to this funding, which I kept telling you all along. On May 17th, the U.S. Treasury came out with their interim final rule on how to use the money. That was actually about 40 pages of extremely fine print, which caused me to have to go out and buy a new pair of reader glasses to try to read it. But anyway, the other day, they actually updated it with another 25 to 30 pages of updated. And what they're doing now is they're really taking comments from across the country and municipalities, and the final comment period and questions are going to be on July 9th. And they will, from my understanding, they will be issuing another update shortly after that. I told Chairman Morel that I foresee that we need to obviously work with the committee, and Chairman Morel has agreed to that, and starting to formulate what areas we want to take a look at for the stimulus money. It certainly has to fall into any COVID-related activity. There are basically 4 categories: how to respond to public health emergency, essential workers, and government services, revenue reduction, so on and so forth. And under those categories, there's about 1 million subcategories that go with that. And I won't bore you right now with all those, but we will be, once we come up with some categories that we need to look at, I think it's going to be extremely important that we look at outside consultants to be able to help us with this, especially from the legal and compliance issues. There's going to be reporting that has to be done with this. And just as an FYI, those consulting services can be paid for out of these stimulus funds. The webinars and meetings I've been on with NISAC and NACO have all advised slow up, take your time, make sure this is done correctly, because if it's not, the feds will be grabbing your money. And the one thing I want to stress is the fact that this money, and again, I know it seems like a tremendous windfall, but it's meant, we're going to have to report at the end of every December. We can take a look at our revenue losses for the end of December 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. This money will be meant to replace some of those revenue losses in certain categories if needed. So again, this stretches way out, and Lord knows what's ahead of us. We're reading about the variants now, the COVID-19. We've been through what we think is the worst case scenario, and hopefully we have. But I have to tell you, being in the EMS world, nothing would surprise me. And again, suppose we had to go through this one more time. I know $12 million seems like a lot, but if you remember right, we cut our budget between $10 and $15 million last year. So, Elena, do you have anything to add?
The only thing I would say is to echo what PJ said is the federal government has put out a FAQ and is being updated on a regular basis. In fact, they just did updates as recent as yesterday. So as PJ said, this is an ever-changing situation. While we get some clarity in others, some of the FAQs only provide mud in others.
That's correct. So stay tuned. Chairman, I'll turn it back to you.
You're muted, Chairman, and Tistria has a question.
We'll start with Supervisor Hoatman.
Thanks, PJ. I agree. It's very complicated and convoluted. One of my understandings, and I want to make sure that this is your understanding as well, is that for the lost revenues, there's a twofold understanding I have. For example, court revenues. The court was closed for almost a year, or at least much less in their busyness. And even though we may have had some expenditures that also weren't spent because we didn't need to operate court as much, if we can show the lost revenues, regardless of a potential savings on the expenditure side, that does count. And those lost revenues then are not tied to the specific expenses. So any lost revenues that we can show, regardless of expenditure savings that are on the other side of the budget, could then be utilized for whatever the county feels is a good investment for those funds. Is that your understanding as well at this time?
That is my understanding as well. And together with the revenue losses, they have a formula that we have to use as well. And that can change moving forward as well. But I do understand that, yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yep.
PJ and Tistria, just to clarify, are we allowed to take line revenue losses, or do we have to take total revenues into account?
It's not specific at this point in time. The last update that I did see was that we did not have to do line by line, but that we could take it as a group.
So if we have losses in the court, for example,
Yep.
but mortgage sales tax numbers are higher and the aggregate revenue number, even with court losses, is flat or up, then we don't get a benefit from specific line item losses?
No, the way I read it, Art and Elena, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I read it is, yes, we take the line item losses such as sales tax for the period during the heaviest part of COVID. Even though we came out ahead for the year in sales tax, our sales tax revenue from March through September was down about $800,000. We can claim that. And we can also claim the lack of revenue for the court while it was closed as well. Other areas where we had overages, from my understanding at this point in time, and again, we'll plead the fifth here, but it can change, is that we don't have to count the excess against our losses.
Okay, that's interesting, thank you.
They also there is even a formula that will allow you to even have for your growth adjustment.
Yes.
So, if you anticipated growth and you didn't get that, that's another area. There, as PJ said, there's a very detailed formula. The formula is there, just what items you can plug into the formula is still, up for discussion. But I agree with everything that PJ just said.
And another one that I brought up that Association of Towns agreed with is summer camp. So a lot of towns didn't have summer camp. And even though you didn't pay any summer camp employees, whatever revenue, and it's not your budgeted revenue because we often underestimate our revenue. It's based on the last 3 years or 5 years, whatever the formula goes back on actual revenues collected for summer camp. If you didn't hold summer camp, then that is an amount that you can then expend on whatever you find appropriate.
I can't answer that. I did not look into the towns, but it seems logical to me.
Okay, any other questions for PJ or Elena?
Like I said, the main thing everyone stresses that I've talked to is like, take your time, make sure you do this correctly. There's no rush. We have to at least commit the money by the end of 24, and it has to be totally spent or allocated by the end of 26. So again, we don't need to rush. We need to put our heads together and see what areas. And I know Chairman and I have talked before previously, and obviously broadband is one of the main emphasis, and I'm sure that will be one of the categories.
PJ, I just wanted to thank you for sending out the guidance by email earlier this week. It was, it was gratefully received. Thank you.
Good. I'll send you all the rest of the interim final rules too that come along with pages and pages and pages, right, Elena?
That may be less welcome, but thank you anyway.
The FAQs aren't too bad though. Those might be helpful. We can send you the link for the FAQs.
Yeah, that's true.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
PJ,
Yep.
in Hillsdale, we have a sewer district, and one of the priorities is support for sewers. Can that, even though the sewer district is separate from the town, can that be considered as part of town, part of the town's situation?
I believe it can. Elena, I'll defer to you, but as far as I'm not positive of that, but they're emphasizing sewer and water infrastructure upgrades, and I'm not sure. I can't answer that legally. That's why we're going to have to bring in some consultants to help us get through this.
I will say that I can't give you a definitive answer. I'll be honest with you. I have looked at all the guidance and the FAQs, but I will say that the focus has been primarily on pay essential workers only because of the unions pushing. But that doesn't mean that we can't get up to, get a more detailed response for you as we move forward.
Okay, thanks very much.
Chris, you might also want to attend the next Association of Towns webinar because that question was asked specifically in the last one, and their legal advisor said that she would ask the question and get back to us because.
Okay, I did attend that and heard that, but it was inconclusive. So,
well, she said that sewer districts tend to be special districts, and therefore the guidance is not clear. So you heard that as well.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, Sarah Brancatello is quite entertaining, isn't she?
Yes. Very expressive.
That's polite. Hey, PJ, I think I saw that the first time, like the first reporting submission is October 1st. I mean, if you don't have a significant amount of time, or we have a significant amount of time to spend this money, what does that first submission entail?
Actually, the first report, I believe, is due for the county in August.
Okay.
And if we haven't spent anything, we'll be just reporting that we haven't spent anything. But they're reporting, I believe it's every quarter as we move forward and as we start which is a good thing. But I do want to just throw out a word of caution that although it is high at the moment, it's up almost 25%. But there is some thought amongst the treasurers around the state, whereas last year, if you remember right, the state reconciled the sales tax at the end of every quarter, and we got a big shot because prior to that, they based the sales tax distribution based on historical distributions. So therefore, New York City was getting a lot of money. But then when they reconciled it, their revenue, their sales tax revenue was down about 40%. It then came back to us at the end of every quarter. There's some thought that maybe the state has changed their formula a little bit for this year moving forward, so that at the end of the quarter, there may not be a huge adjustment. And hopefully it won't be an adjustment down. So I just want to throw that word of caution to you out there. Don't spend all that money yet.
Okay,
That's it. Thank you.
thank you. Thanks, PJ and Elena. I also had asked Jack Mab to join us. Jack, can you give it a COVID update?
Okay, well, the good news is that another 0 today, another goose egg today. We had 0 yesterday, 1 the day before, 0 the day before. I mean, it's really flattened out. It's really flattened out in a terrific way. That's really the great news. One of the things that I wanted to talk about tonight is where we're at, where our numbers are at in terms of percentages. We're up to 67.2. We've all heard about Joe Biden's plans to have 70% by July 4th. We're up to 67.2%. Many of the more urban areas in the capital region, Saratoga, Warren County, Albany County, Schenectady is actually leading the way with like 75%. Most of those counties are over 70%. The rural counties, Greene County, Columbia, Washington, we're all under 70%. So, but we're at 67.2. Statewide, we vaccinated 80.7% of our seniors. Columbia is 78.9%, which is 1.1% different. It really doesn't amount to a lot of folks. It amounts to maybe 250 people. But I would like to talk with you tonight, or would like to appeal to you tonight to see if we can find a way to within your towns identify more people who are homebound and or who have difficulty getting anywhere. The Office for the Aging a couple of days ago asked me if I wanted to take the better part of a grant that they received from the state OFA, $17,000 specifically targeted for this, doing folks in their homes or transporting. They can transport people to vaccination sites. I really need to strategize, I never could say that word, about how we can find the seniors in your town who still want a vaccine and they just can't get it, who are homebound or who have a difficulty with transportation.
Say, Jack, I keep reading that some states, some counties, some towns are offering incentives for people to get vaccinated. Does that make any sense for us to consider?
Well, I think part of the incentive, hopefully for somebody who's a senior, is that we will come right to their house to do the vaccination. This has been discussed at the county level on the chairman's committee. And, there's a lot of incentives out there, state incentives, scholarships, and other things. We had ice cream, Stewart ice cream coupons for kids in Hudson School District to come out last week. And it was one of our poorest attended pods. The ice cream didn't work. So it would have worked for me. I mean, let's face it, but I probably would have scooped up maybe 5 coupons. But I don't know what kind of incentives we're gonna have to put in place. I will tell you that we know we're underperforming among the kids, the 12 to 17-year-olds. We know we're underperforming among the 20-somethings and the 30-somethings. I'm in the process of winding up the corporate chain of Planet Fitness to see if I can set up a pod inside or outside at Planet Fitness, because I frequent the place, and there's an awful lot of young people that come and go. I think we might do well with J&J over there. We are talking to Questar about another pod with them on a Saturday. All of our school pods were during the week. We're going to do a pod on a Saturday, see if we can get some more parents out. So we're doing some things. It's just that I don't know about incentives. I just don't know whether they'll work or not. And if we do them, where do they come from? That's the other issue. But
I don't have any answers either, but I guess I'm just thinking it might be worth some effort to try to do a deal with, say, a dozen restaurants in the county where you give a $100 gift certificate to somebody, to one of these restaurants, to get vaccinated between now and July 1st or something like that. Don't know if it would work, but it's certainly worth a try. It wouldn't cost a lot of money and it might get some interest.
I believe it's a valid ARPA expense as well. It did talk in the guidance about incentives for vaccinations.
Yeah, I don't think we want to wait until we get the money to offer this. I think we want to start it as quickly as we can with our own money and then continue it with ARPA money once that gets here. But I think anything to stimulate people's interest in getting vaccinated would be a good thing to try.
Yep.
Well, I think one of the biggest things, and I think this is true especially among the young adults, is I think there's a big group there. I think there's a couple thousand people. For us to hit 70%, to go from where we're at now, 67.2%, we need about 1,600 people to get vaccinated, adults to get vaccinated. It's not a huge number. We were doing more of that in a week back in January and February. I think for a lot of the 20 to 30 year olds, it's not so much I don't want the vaccine, as I don't want to be bothered. I don't want to be inconvenienced, and that's why we're trying to get into Planet Fitness, and we're moving the pods around and trying to be where people are. We had one set for tonight for downtown Hudson, and we canceled it because there was a shooting. And in fact, apparently the person that they were looking for in the Front Street area where we were going to go. But we are going to go back down there to Front Street. I've been talking to the pastor Shiloh Baptist about going into that church on a Sunday after service and seeing how many folks we can vaccinate. And we're kind of nickeling and diming it now. But I don't really know whether the incentives would work as much as trying to be as convenient for people as we can.
I will say they're even going to go to Lebanon Valley and do a pod at the Speedway.
Yes, we are. That's going to be interesting.
How about like at the fairs that are coming up? I know they're not till September or late August. I mean, that's another idea.
Yep.
We are already planning on doing a pod at the fair.
Okay, good.
I think we can do really well there. Because we will be there every day. We might not be there for 12 hours a day, but we'll be there every day. I think we could do really well. But again, tonight in particular, I was just hoping that we could come up with some idea about how we can reach some of the seniors in your town. You have some representatives to the Office for the Aging Advisory Council that are active. I've been to those meetings. If you can speak with them about how some of their folks, some of their neighbors could help find out people that are out there that still haven't got the shot. I've got 2 nurses that are ready to go anytime they need to go. They'll go out and do 1 shot. They'll go out and do 10 shots. But I just need to find the arms to put those shots in.
I don't know, Jack. It's been tough up here, like I said, trying to get people, but I don't think I have a problem with the seniors as much as the 30-year-olds and the younger ones. And I do have some people in their 60s that refuse to get it. What are you going to do? Can't twist their arm. I gave them a lollipop and they still said no.
So, Jack, has there been any guidance, or do you expect to have any guidance about whether or not kids will have to be vaccinated to go back to school?
Well, the thing that hangs on is that right now it's approved. The Pfizer is approved for emergency use authorization only. If the FDA approves it, fully approves it, then the governor could mandate it. I don't know. There's been no talk about that, no chatter about that. That would take an awful lot of courage on his part to go down that route, I think, because I think there would be a lot of folks up and upward. You know, there was the uproar a number of years, 3 years ago, or whatever it was, when they required vaccinate. They did away with the religious exemption, and they required vaccination for all schools. And we got a lot of the Hawthorne Valley people in here, but they came in here to get the vaccinations because they didn't want to, but they came here. I think if he ever did that, I mean, we would really be busy. We'd vaccinate a ton of kids. And the pharmacy would be there for sure too.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that's the next, that would be the next event that might occur, and how we gear up for that.
Well, that or with our parting seniors, if they want their diploma, they get a shot on the way out.
Well, a lot of them, any of them are going to go to college. A lot of them are going to have to have a shot anyway.
Yep.
And I think we'll be busy over the summer with that too. And we will also plan on go back to Columbia Green. We had a pod for Columbia Green students, and it was pretty poorly attended, but we're going to go back to Columbia Green in August. Because I do think that if the FDA would approve the Pfizer full authorization, I think that the SUNY schools will require it.
Hey, Jack, what's the age of an individual before you no longer need parental approval?
Still 18, as far as I know. I don't know if Rob Fitzsimmons is on, but I think it's 18.
To get a vaccination?
Yeah.
Okay. So you really got to work on the parents as opposed to more so than the kids.
Yeah, agreed.
How about a Chatham Fair package deal? A ticket and a food voucher.
Well, we actually thought about setting up a pop-up outside the entrance. And if you get your vaccination today, you're in for free. You know?
Yeah, but then you got to wait all the way till August.
Well, yeah, the fair, I think, is a terrific opportunity. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to do it, but I really would like to hit that 80% mark as soon as we can. I mean, the 70% mark, rather.
Right.
But Jack, that brings up another point. There are a number of towns and villages that may be having street fairs over the summer, and having a pod there might be, some of those are in July and earlier August. That might be useful as well.
And I would be glad to, any of you who can pass that information on to us, we'll be glad to take a look at that.
Community days or street fairs.
Yep.
Flag Day?
We've kicked around Flag Day, and we know what the structure is now. We know what it looks like and whatever. And I just don't think the downtown is going to be the waterfront's going to be what it has been in the past, and I don't think it's going to be a productive thing for us.
Okay, we got to move along. Are there any other questions for Jack?
Hey, Jack, how well are the big three vaccines doing against the Delta variant?
Well, I just heard this morning again on tonight's news that the one dose of the Pfizer is only 33% effective against the variant that is sweeping through the UK. But if you get both doses, it's 88%. So it's not quite as effective as it was against the original virus, but still 88% is pretty good.
Thank you.
Okay, Jack, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Hi, Jack.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't need me any further, I'm going to hop off the call, sir.
Okay, you take care, Elena.
All right, thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Yep. So next, I would like to ask the clerk read the resolutions.
Okay, resolution 165 of 2021 to 175 of 2021 by Supervisor Bury.
Mr. Chairman, I offer these resolutions for adoption.
The screen is blank.
Okay, thanks, Mike Benvenuto. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The
Opposed?
screen
Carried.
is blank, Kelly.
The what?
Is everybody else's screen blank?
No.
I got it.
No, go to share screen, Linda.
Down.
Okay, resolution 176 of 2021 to 182 of 2021 by Supervisor Stats.
Mr. Chairman, I offer these resolutions for adoption.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 183 of 2021 to 195 of 2021 by Supervisor Knott.
Mr. Chairman, I request a roll call vote on 193. Supervisor Riley.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would offer to move these resolutions outside of 193, which we'll call vote for.
Okay.
Second that. Benvenuto.
All in favor?
Aye.
I got a question for Rob Fitzsimmons. Do we need a second for the roll call vote, Rob?
No.
No, okay. So a roll call vote on 193.
Mr. Chairman, just before we vote, I need to recuse on 193.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there a reason, please?
There is a relation by marriage to the individual.
Okay, Basson,
Yes.
Weigelt,
Yes.
Leader,
Yes.
and Benito abstained. Stats,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Metler,
Yes.
Collins,
Yes.
Riley.
Mr. Chairman, I asked for a roll call vote on a relatively symbolic maneuver because I think this individual at question here is an excellent example of meritorious conduct and should not be subjected to the whims of an appointment position. However, it is our primary purpose in life not to burden future boards with a position that they would have to deal with a civil service permanent position for somebody who may not be as excellent in their position in the future. And for that reason, I vote no.
Okay. Thank you.
So Riley is no. Eldridge,
Where is that coming from, John?
Kathy, it comes from the fact that I don't think that these positions as department heads necessarily are great for appointment purposes because they become political. I think they should be based purely on merit. The rest of the world does work on a at-will type of job situation. And I think this particular individual is an excellent example of somebody who would be kept regardless of party power because they have great merit. That said, by creating a civil service position, we are burdening future boards where the candidate may not be as excellent as the one we have now.
Okay. Thank you for that. And I vote yes.
Fury,
Yes.
Kirsten,
Yes.
Ligonia,
Yes.
Sterling,
Yes.
Mia,
Yes.
Chimidas, the supervisor, did we lose him?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes.
Okay. Mussman,
I'm going to vote no, and for the same reasons Supervisor Riley has pointed out. It's not about the individual, it's about the policy and the future of this position. Thank you.
Thank you.
Galera,
Yes.
Guzzi,
Yes.
Hoatling,
Yes.
Morel,
Yes.
Knott,
Yes.
Skoda, bear with me just one moment. Let me total it. Okay, sorry about that. 2989A, 245 nay, 301 for abstention. The resolution passes.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me get back on track here. So 196 of 2021 to 207 of 2021 by Supervisor Collins.
Mr. Chairman, I offer these resolutions for adoption.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 208 of 2021 to 215 of 2021 by Supervisor Basson.
Mr. Chairman, I offer these resolutions for adoption.
Second, Hoatling.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
That's it, sir.
All right, thank you. Do any supervisors have anything to bring to the board?
Mr. Chairman, if I could just thank you for having PJ and Mr. Mab come. I would like to encourage more of that. I realize it made our normal 10-minute meeting go to a 40-minute meeting, but I think it's a really good informative thing for both the supervisors and the public. And so I would just encourage, whenever appropriate, to have, one or two department heads or that type of thing come and, update us as a board. I really appreciate that.
You and Art Basson are in cahoots, aren't you?
No, we haven't even talked about it.
We never talk about these things, Matt. This is just spontaneous combustion.
Great minds think alike.
Supervisor Musman has her hand up.
I think both in terms of the stimulus, we're going to have annual, or not annual, but regular updates. And, as long as we're still dealing with COVID, we're going to try to update the board. So I'm sorry, Kelly, who did you say?
I'm sorry, Supervisor Musman, then Supervisor Chemidas.
Okay, Supervisor Musman.
I want to bear with me this evening. I have a proclamation. I hope you will listen and support it. The chairman generally does these proclamations, but I've taken it upon myself to do it. So this is from me. It's to the Columbia County Board of Supervisors on June 9th, 2021, a proclamation in honor of the LGBTQ plus Pride Month, June 21, 2021 in Columbia County, New York. Whereas our nation called America was founded on the principle of equal rights for all people, and that the fulfillment of this promise for some is yet to be realized. Many of us who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning people still wait for equal and fair to be served at our table and to be included in this quest for equality. And whereas on this historic day of June 28, 1969, in the city of New York, at the inn named Stonewall, the LGBTQ community fought back against yet another brutal police raid and discriminating criminal laws that have been since have been declared unconstitutional. And whereas on June 11th, 1999, to commemorate the 30th anniversary of Stonewall Uprising, President Bill Clinton declared June Gay and Lesbian Pride Month. And on June 1st, 2009, President Obama expanded the commemoration further by declaring June to be Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Pride Month. And on June 24th, 2016, President Obama designated Stonewall Inn as a national monument, forever preserving this historic site where the modern LGBTQ civil rights movement began. And we remember that the uprising of Stonewall was led by people of color, Black, trans members of the LGBTQ community, and that past and present battles for racial and social LGBTQ justice in this country were built on the shoulders of courageous change makers like Jose Sarria, Maxine Perkins, Donna Burkett, Manonia Evans, Martha Johnson, Sylvia Rivera, and many others. Whereas we recognize and acknowledge that amidst the backdrop of COVID-19 pandemic, where we recognize On the backdrop of COVID-19 pandemic, the country's continuing struggle to seek justice for Black lives, our current Pride Month celebrations underscore the critical role that intersectionality plays in the fight for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning justice. And even though actions to prevent the spread of COVID have canceled some traditional Pride Month celebration events, our deep pride for LGBTQ plus community, their general diversity, their invaluable contributions to our communities, and to their ultimate triumph over discrimination and hate can never be canceled or forgotten. And now, therefore, be it resolved that on this day, the 9th of June, 2021, the Columbia County Board of Supervisors joins me in supporting this proclamation and do hereby proclaim June 21 as Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, Queer, and Questioning Pride Month, and urge all community residents to eliminate discrimination and injustice wherever it exists, to celebrate the lives of our LGBTQ neighbors and friends, and to work together to create a more inclusive community that respects and values all people, no matter who they are and who they love, extending the promise of equal and fair to all people. Love is what holds hope in the hearts of everyone who breathes the same air and dreams the dreams of justice and fairness. Thank you.
Supervisor Mettler? You're on mute, Supervisor.
I would like to support this proclamation. It was beautifully drafted, and I want to thank Linda for reading it to us. I don't know whether I second it, but I certainly would ask that we post this on the county website. And again, Supervisor Mussman, thank you very much for doing this.
I will say, and I'll defer to our attorney, but we normally don't vote on proclamations, but we will accept it.
Yes, that's correct, Matt. You can adopt it as a Columbia County Board of Supervisors resolution.
Thank you very much. We, all of us, appreciate this. We love the idea of equality and fairness, especially here in our own hometown and our county, Columbia. Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda, could you also
Linda.
please distribute this proclamation so that we could all post it on our websites?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Mussman.
Any other
Beautifully stated,
supervisors have any, I'm sorry, Supervisor Riley, you,
No, I just said beautifully stated.
Yep.
Sorry, Chairman.
no problem.
Supervisor
others?
Jaminez has his hand up.
Okay, he hasn't moved in forever.
Am I here? My video might be frozen.
Yeah.
Linda, thank you so much for offering that proclamation, and I'm happy to support it. And it's so important that we uplift our LGBTQ and questioning neighbors in our community. So I really appreciate that. I also wanted to share maybe a less positive statement, but I've sort of seen an increasing amount hateful acts and language in the county over the past few months. And just sort of want to join in amplifying the condemnation of racism and anti-Semitism in the county. In particular, I've been really disturbed by the comparisons of public health regulations to the Holocaust. And the comparison is really deeply anti-Semitic as it downplays the horrors committed by Nazi white supremacists. First off, Jack was talking about all the important public health regulations that we're doing. So to compare that to the Holocaust is really unfortunate because these are regulations that are designed to help people, and particularly vulnerable and marginalized people. But also it's just it's a bizarre comparison to talk about mask requirements, which might be an inconvenience or might be a go against someone's self-expression, to really compare that to the Holocaust, which, just to be clear, was millions of people had their possessions stolen from them, sent to death camps, forced into slave labor, and ultimately murdered. And so to compare that to a mask requirement is really just mitigates the horrors of the Holocaust. And so I think it's really important that we condemn this kind of comparison, and to recognize that these public health regulations are essential for keeping us safe, and that the Holocaust was a real true horror that shouldn't, that really doesn't have that much of a comparison. And similarly, I'm also starting to see comparisons of vaccine policy to chattel slavery in the US, which also has its own set of really incomprehensible horrors. and to compare that to vaccine requirements is really unsettling. And I know that I've seen many fellow board members sort of stand up against this kind of hate that's happening recently, and I applaud you for doing that. And I just wanted to add my voice to that chorus.
I will say, Supervisor Chimides, I think our actions in Columbia County as a county government and a board speak volumes in terms of how we feel about this issue.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I just follow up on something Supervisor Chimides said, because it was actually something that I planned on asking about anyway. In the town of New Lebanon, we recently passed a resolution against hate, which I just sent to you and Clerk Baccaro. And it basically states that, recently we've seen an uptick in violence against people based on their race, their sexual identity, their orientation, and that we as a county take a firm stand against violence of any kind for any of those categories. And I hope that you might consider, I don't know what the proper committee to go through with the resolution would be first, but that we might consider as a board officially adopting a resolution against hate at our July meeting.
County government.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Yep. Any other supervisors? Okay, to move on. I know you've been awaiting the police reform citizen review panel. So I wanted to announce that, and I'm sorry for the delay, but what I'm going to announce is 6 people. And I'm still waiting to hear back on a 7th person, but right now the panel is Linda Mussman, Kathy Eldridge, Richard Washburn, Robin Andrews, Juan Flores, and Reverend Kim Singletary. And one more will be appointed in the future.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to thank you for taking the time to choose a wonderful panel and knowing most of the people, actually, I think all of the people that you just listed. I think that you've done a really wonderful job choosing a diverse group of people that will take their job very seriously that they're tasked at with this panel. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for including me. I appreciate it.
Yep. Okay, and then before we adjourn, I'd like us to take a moment of silence in memory of Thomas Garrick, who was a former supervisor from Gallatin and has passed away suddenly. So if we can take a moment of silence. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion, Chairman.
Patsy Reader, second. I'm sorry, who seconded that first? Is that Supervisor Hotley? Did you second it?
I did.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you all.
Have a great night.
Chairman.
Guys.
Good night, everyone. Hey, Linda, can you
Night.
send me